Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. You're watching Crypto Hot Seat on Token Metrics TV. My name is Dylan Love, and today's a great day because we are joined by Bram Cohen, perhaps the greatest living protocol architect. Bram, you're responsible for things like BitTorrent, and most recently, you're working on Chia. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Sure, happy to be here.
We want to talk a little bit about BitTorrent. We want to talk about Chia, of course, but talk to us a little bit about your hobby or side hustle, I guess, of designing puzzles.
And you're also yeah. I've been obsessed with puzzles like in most of my life. And when I was a kid, there were all these ideas of things I wanted to do that the tools for building them just weren't there yet. And then as an adult, like circa 2003, I kind of found a community of adults who are into such things, like Rubik's Cube type variants and things. And at the time, the tools to build the kind of stuff I wanted to do was just barely getting to be there. And now it very much is there. So it's kind of like there was this wide open field of stuff that could be done in the twisty puzzle space back then. And I used to just post all the time, like, here's a list of ideas, just zoom out there. But since then, a lot of those things have been built, and a lot of other people understand the techniques involved in them and are able to help expand on them a lot. And I'm best at coming up with truly novel, original ideas, where other people are often better at actually executing on them once they understand what it is that I'm babbling about about a bunch of these things. I've since expanded into lots of other puzzle types. It's usually been mostly mechanical puzzles. During pandemic, actually, I guess, because I haven't gotten to meet anyone or actually play with any mechanical puzzles other people have made, I've gotten more into Sudoku, and I've actually set a few Sudokus and come up with some interesting ideas there. I did, with some extent, I for years now have had several of my designs in mass production that are selling, regularly. Some really amazing. Yeah. Those are available online. You can just go buy them. And that I'm very happy about, because of course the whole point of inventing things is for people to play with them. And it's very hard to make mechanical puzzles available to people. That's a very like inventing mechanical puzzles is kind of like doing the game space on hard mode, right? Because there's this tremendous advantage with like mobile games and even like Sudoku that you need just like your phone, or in the case of Sudoku, just like a pen and paper to be able to do them. Although I guess these days phones are easier to come by than paper, actually. They're certainly more than a printer. But yeah, there are all these games and puzzles now that people can access just by installing them on their phone and just playing them. And of course, for a mechanical puzzle, it needs to be actually physically manufactured and get in people's hands. And in order for people to play with them, and this costs real money and has real logistics involved in making it happen. So it's a pretty high bar to actually get that to happen. But then, thankfully for me, a lot of the stuff that I'm really fascinated with are exactly the types of three-dimensional things that you can't do on your phone. These like very, very spatial things that really highlight and emphasize what a three-dimensional thing you're dealing with when you're actually dealing with a mechanical puzzle. So to some extent, I wonder how much of my doing a bunch of Sudoku this last year has been me running out of ideas. To what extent it's been that the puzzle part of my brain has been occupied by all of my work pursuits, because that's happened before, where I just haven't been very productive at inventing puzzles because I was just working on super technical and interesting things at work, and it just resulted in me not doing much puzzle inventing. That part of my brain was tired. But I did. But actually, I think one of my great puzzle successes actually did happen in the last year. I came up with a very interesting find the symmetry puzzle. which is I think there's only really one interesting find the symmetry puzzle that can be made, and I found it. That was a very long process to figure out something that seems ridiculously simple when it's done.
I remember the last time we spoke, there was I was curious to try to see how you think about, your interest in puzzles and the work you were doing at BitTorrent. Like, you were doing decentralized networks before it was cool, and which is now called Chia. So I remember that kind of the operative word we had arrived at was secrets. You're very interested in secrets and transmitting and receiving secrets, whether you're designing a puzzle or whether you're making a crypto transaction. Could you talk a little bit?
Yeah, well, we were talking amongst like magicians. I'm not a magician, but we were having conversations with magicians that yeah, where the thing is in common there is secrets. That with a puzzle, there's a secret, but the whole point is to reveal the secret in a way that it blows people's minds, right? It's supposed to be that there is a secret, and then when the secret is revealed, it's insightful, and people have really learned something that they find amazing from having done it. With cryptocurrency, there are a lot of secrets, but the secrets are supposed to be cryptographic. They're just unfindable. They're terrible puzzles. You cannot find them. There's nothing interesting or insightful about finding them. By design, there's nothing other than just brute forcing the key. With magic tricks, usually, not always, but usually the point is to keep the secret. And often a lot of the game is actually in hinting that the secret is much more interesting than it actually is. Like, the reveal of magic tricks is usually very disappointing to people. One meta bits of misdirection when magicians are giving away effects is they give away effects which are ridiculous, which are exactly the kind of like really expensive to build big mechanical kinds of things that people imagine and fantasize the secrets are, not these like, oh, I just kind of held it with my finger or something like that things usually are.
Great. Well, let's talk about Chia. As much of our audience probably already understands, Chia is basically an environmentally friendly cryptocurrency that uses hard drive space as its consensus mechanism. So
yeah.
So the pitch here is that this consensus mechanism is way more environmentally friendly, and furthermore, hard disk space is way more decentralized.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's not just proofs of space; it's proofs of space and time. Since the vast majority of people in the community now they don't really know about this, but there are time lords that are out there that need to be running for the system to work.
Right. So
by design.
To back up for just one moment, proof of space and time, this is the consensus mechanism that you yourself designed.
Yeah, I came up with this idea. Really, the proof of there were proof of space things people did before. They had a bunch of problems, which can be summarized as: number one, they were using a proof of space primitive that's busted, and number two, they didn't realize they need to include proofs of time, and much less actually have figured out how to properly stitch them in there. So those are the new innovations that we've come up with in Chia in order to make the consensus algorithm actually work properly. And that's why it's taking off so well, is it really does work as advertised.
So this seems like a very specific problem to try to solve, this idea of reducing energy consumption for cryptocurrency. Why did you sign up to solve this problem?
Oh, I don't like. Well, I mean, it's an obvious problem in Bitcoin. I don't like how much energy consumption is going into it, and I don't like how centralized Bitcoin mining is in practice. These are obvious things that should be fixed. And if you hold on to Bitcoin, if you own Bitcoin, you are implicitly increasing the demand for Bitcoin, which increases its price, which results in mining rewards being greater, which results in more pollution happening from people mining Bitcoin. So I wanted to help fix this. Now, It's very hard to do that. Like I said, I'm not the first and only person to think of proofs of space. There are projects that have done it before, and actually one of them that was more academic, never really built, was the thesis advisor on that was an academic who's one of my company's central advisors. I've been collaborating with him a lot on Chia's consensus algorithm. There's also another side of this, which is we have a really good on-chain programming environment that's a big improvement on Bitcoins as well. Since we are doing this better consensus algorithm, that leads to an opportunity to really do an improvement to the on-chain programming environment, and we've figured out how to do that. Both of these things are very, very hard to do. Like Bitcoin hits a real plateau of functionality that it's extremely difficult to improve on, because the thing it does, it like kind of just barely does. It's really like threading the needle. Yeah, Bitcoin is a secure distributed database, and this is one of those. Usually, it's like pick 2 out of the 3, right? Like it's very easy to find things that are secure databases that aren't distributed. You can have distributed databases that are not secure, right? And you can have things that are secure and distributed, but they're not databases. You can't alter the data that's in them. Like BitTorrent does that, right? So it's very, very hard to actually make something that's all 3 of these. And so there's this core insight, this core innovation, which is Nakamoto consensus, this idea that you have a weight to the history, and which if you and I get into an argument about what the current state of the database is, whoever's version of the history had more blood, sweat, and tears put into it, that's the winner. Usually it's the other person's version plus some stuff added to the end of it. And then there's a question, well, how are you going to pay for this? And the answer is, well, the database is going to be a database of money that has its own currency, and it's going to pay miners out of that. This is a really interesting bunch of ideas. It does work. It most definitely is a secure distributed database, but it has like lots of caveats. Its throughput isn't very good. It's extremely wasteful. It winds up in practice being not nearly as distributed as you'd like. But it's so hard to even get here that it's really, really threading the needle to improve on this. If you want to have a better consensus algorithm, you need to use a proof of work algorithm, which not only don't you need to like burn electricity to do it, but you can't use electricity to improve on it. That like, even if you're very, very clever, you can't go ahead and leverage, well, in the case of what she's doing, computational power instead of storage space in order to make your storage space look bigger than it is, because then you wind up in a situation where you're just backed to just grinding, to just using CPU, or even worse, you wind up in your space is like your space times your computational usage, which is even worse. That's extremely centralizing, that whoever's the biggest thing will just automatically win in that. So that's why it's been so hard to make this work. Coming up with a proof of space that's not just busted and doesn't just degenerate into a plain old proof of work like all the other proofs of work is very hard to do.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, though, it seems like there's more attention on green crypto than ever before. I want to ask very specifically about the tweet by Elon Musk in which he said he'll no longer take Bitcoin for Tesla anymore, and chalked it up to environmental concerns. Do you believe him?
No, I don't invest in Bitcoin, not necessarily because I don't think the price is going to go up, but because I don't want to, I'm concerned about the environmental consequences of doing so. Strangely, he didn't announce that Tesla's selling all the Bitcoin that they own. So that's kind of weird, because that's like the number one thing they could do to.
Yeah, as far as I know, they still have all that Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
Yeah, and then he's pumping Doge, which is just as bad, because Doge is a proof of work cryptocurrency, just like Bitcoin is. So.
I thought something smelled sideways there. What was your experience of that tweet in general? I feel like Elon was for the problems of the tweet, he really was shining a light on this idea of environmentally friendly.
Yeah, no, it's a legitimate problem, and people are like, "Hey, Bram, you should like use this as an opportunity to pump Chia." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm not really a hype person. Chia just started transactions recently. We're not on all that many exchanges right now. Trading on it isn't super deep. We're still building out a bunch of the really amazing functionality that we have, but haven't really deployed and showed to the world yet. So I'm trying to I'm trying to get it a bit more mature before I really do the big marketing push on it.
Right, but people can still stake hard drive space and farm today. Yeah.
Oh, it's not staking hard drive space. It's plotting hard drive space. We're not proof of stake at all, not in the slightest. No, people can farm. People are most definitely farming. We're up over 7 exabytes of net space on Chia right now. It's growing at about a rate of 1 exabyte per day currently. So it has this like 10% daily growth that it's been doing for a couple of weeks now. If you project this out in like 2 months, it'll have considerably more space than the amount of storage, the capacity that planet Earth has. So pretty safe bet that this is going to slow down before then. But when it's going to slow down, I don't know. I can't tell you. There's a lot of over provisioned storage out there. There's a lot of decommissioned storage that people were historically just throwing out. How much capacity there is for that to be readily just repurposed to farming Chia, I don't know, probably a lot. My best guess is things will get slower around 100 exabytes, but it's just a wild guess. And I don't know. You can't, on the upslope of an S curve, you can't predict when it's going to stop. It's just impossible. Like there's no signal there.
Do you care to shout out any other green cryptos? We have one analyst on our staff who loves Nano, for example.
No, I mostly talk smack about things that claim to be green cryptos. Like anything that's proof of work is not green at all. There are a whole bunch of things that are proof of stake, and the thing is, proof of stake does not have anywhere near in the same league kind of security guarantees as real Nakamoto consensus does. That it's proof of stake. If some group owns the net, has a majority of what's going on, they just own the network. They just win. And many proof of stake systems actually have kind of grinding attacks that can be done on them and stuff. And in practice, what really happens is there's some group that effectively controls the network and just kind of acts as benevolent dictator. And it's really a centralized system. It does not have the property that there are many actors all working together, all with a very minimal amount of control of the system, and most definitely does not have the property that everyone who's running it today could just disappear and all get replaced by completely new people, and it would continue to work no problem, which is the property that Nakamoto consensus most definitely has. The big thing that happened was transactions started within just a few days. We got listed on a few exchanges, and there was a real coin price that had converged across exchanges. And well, that coin price was a little higher than I expected, which has resulted in very, very fast net space growth happening.
It's been as high as like $1,300, right? Is that something?
It's been as high as $1,700 actually.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's currently around $1,000. But that's resulted in it being very, very profitable to farm. Markets abhor a vacuum. When it's very profitable to do something, people jump on it until it's not very profitable to do it anymore. But we had cranked up the number of reward events per day as high as we dared from just a protocol design standpoint. So it's a little less than 5,000 that's happening daily right now. So if you're like 1/5,000th of the net space, you're getting about daily rewards, which is like about 1 reward event per day, which is a perfectly reasonable amount of smoothing. But what's happened is because coin price is higher than we expected. The net space growth has been a lot faster than we expected, which has meant that a lot of entities, a lot of people playing in this are getting like very erratic returns. They're getting like one reward event every 100 or 200 days is the expectation at the current net size, with the work difficulty going up very, very rapidly. So this is not horrible if like you spent like between $500 and $1,000 for something that has an expectation of once every 100 days. Getting a reward event that's going to pay you $2,000. This is like a very strongly a positive investment as far as expected value goes, at least for the time being. Who knows what's going to happen in that space, but there's a lot of volatility going on there when things are that granular. It's kind of like buying these like inverse lottery tickets. It's lottery tickets with positive expected value, so you should be buying them, but it's like unpleasant. Or maybe you should be buying them. It has to do with how much you're having to pay and your expectations of growth and where it's going to get to, how fast it's going to get there, expectations of future price of Chia, a whole bunch of things that I make no promises about. I don't know what's going to happen here, but people certainly are feeling like it's worth continuing investment in this. The market will hit equilibrium somewhere, but people have this legitimate thing that they really, really want a real pooling protocol. And we had plans for a good pooling protocol from the get-go, which will actually allow people to jump between between pools even after they've already plotted, and will be designed so that pools know that people who are members of that pool can't rip them off. And so that when people are members of are working with a pool, if the pool starts stiffing them, they have the opportunity to just jet and join some other pool, and worst case, they're just out what that pool owed them, basically. So we're working on making a really good pool protocol. We're scrambling to do it as quickly as possible because because people need it so badly, much more so than expected. And it's looking like we're going to have that done before the end of this month. I gave an estimate of when it could happen. That was, a few days ago. So obviously we missed that, but almost done with it now. High confidence before the end of May. That's going to be out and working.
Very good.
And that's like a thing that's on fire. In terms of longer term big project things that we're really going for, it's a lot about being a really good platform for price discovery, making it so that when you do tokenization on Chia, we have this really great feature that when you have colored coins in Chia, people can make offers to trade between any two colored coins whose rules are actually enforced by the blockchain with no exchange having to be in the middle. That if you want to trade like a certain amount of a certain colored coin for a certain amount of a certain stable coin, which is another kind of colored coin, in Chia, you can make an offer. You can make a transaction that burns a bunch of colored coin A and prints a bunch of colored coin B, and then take this, email it to somebody, post it to an exchange, post it on Reddit, do whatever you want with it. And then someone who gets their hands on this, who wants to take the other side of this, can do the balancing thing, that they can make another partial transaction that prints a bunch of colored coin A and burns a bunch of colored coin B. And if the amounts balance out on both sides of this, this will now combine to be a valid transaction that they can post to the blockchain and it'll actually go through. And you have full confidence when you made this offer that you weren't allowing people to rip you off, that you were just making this one offer that you thought that you were making. That kind of functionality works between any two colored coins, really, and makes it a really great platform for market making, having multiple exchanges and interactions between exchanges and lots of tokenized assets and lots of really good price discovery across all of them.
Great. I want to ask one more question before we wrap this thing up. Thank you again for sharing your time with us. Did you hear any stories about Chia being directly or indirectly responsible for the price of Western digital stock going up?
Oh, yeah, it sure looks like there was a very direct correlation there. That partially because the initial price is so high. it's caused a huge demand for drives, because I think once the work difficulty evens out, this huge push of demand for drives is going to calm down a bit. Right now, if you get in early, your rewards happening immediately are much more than they will be in the future. So it's been really worth it for people to actually buy completely new storage media, and farm off of that. And in particular, because you need to plot this stuff, and the work difficulty again is going up quickly, so people have wanted to plot quick. There's been a lot of demand for high-end SSDs, which can handle lots and lots of write in them, to do all the plotting on this storage media as quickly as possible. Yeah, so that's definitely made a big spike in demand. I mean, I think the demand's not going to completely go away in the future, although we might see it be a bit more indirect. We're going to be seeing a lot of the value of decommissioned storage is going to be greater than it is right now. There's like all this storage that you end of life when it's too old to be reliable anymore, and historically that's been like thrown out, and we're going to be seeing a lot of that actually being sold on a much more robust used market, for people to be able to farm Chia with it. There's also going to be like the storage manufacturers themselves, while their stuff is sitting in inventory, are probably going to be farming off of it, just because they can. There might be drives that come pre-plotted that you can get, because people are going to be interested in plotting off of drives until they're done, until they're actually ready to use it, right? Like, people will buy storage and it's over provisioned, and there's no reason why people shouldn't be farming on that as much as possible. That's the whole idea here with using space. Is space is already a resource that there's already a lot of it wasted. So you want the wasted stuff to be what's really being used for Chia, rather than just virgin new stuff. We could we could possibly even see in some markets like a drop in the cost of used storage media at some point in the future, if the net space gets big enough that the value of some of the space people are buying now just for farming with is worth more as storage media than it is for farming. We might see a sell-off of that, because farming does not destroy hard drives. People can take those drives that they've been farming with and sell them as used drives that are still perfectly good. Definitely having impacts on the storage market. I'd like to think that it's going to result in better, cheaper storage for everyone as the scale of it goes up, and as the need for higher quality stuff with more writes and less energy necessary to read from it all the time at steady state goes up. It's going to actually be like a healthy impact on that market, and it's certainly going to make it so that if there's sudden spikes in need for used storage media because, like, I don't know, a tsunami destroyed the manufacturing, there'll actually be a buffer of stuff that people can go buy that's currently being used for Chia farming. So I think it's going to have like an overall positive impact at equilibrium on the storage market, but definitely one where it being there will be felt, and it is a good thing for the hard drive companies.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Bram. My name's Dylan Love. You've been watching Crypto Hot Seat on Token Metrics TV.